Have you ever felt that the more you understand the world, the less you seem to belong to it? Maybe you're watching this right now, surrounded by achievements, with a mind that never stops analyzing every detail of existence. And still, there is a void, a strange silence that screams in the middle of the night, asking whether life is nothing more than this repetitive cycle. Carl Jung said that man cannot endure a life without meaning. And in 2026, the greatest tragedy is not the lack of information, but the excess of noise suffocating the voice of your soul. You feel like a stranger in your own story. You watch people smile for reasons that seem trivial and wonder if the problem is you for not being able to fit in. But the truth is that your discouragement is not a flaw, it is a signal. You are not broken. You are simply trapped in invisible mechanisms that Jung mapped out, and that now, more than ever, are draining your vitality. For an intelligent and sensitive person, the dangers are not obvious. The real dangers are silent, and they infiltrate through behaviors you believe to be virtues. Today, we are going to expose, one by one, the 5 psychological traps that are sabotaging your process of becoming who you truly are. Now you understand that your exhaustion is not physical. It is the exhaustion of a soul that has become a spectator of itself. But what you still haven't realized is that the first of these traps is right on your face every morning before you even say your first word. Because if you are so aware, why does it still feel like you're playing a role you never chose just to please a world that doesn't even know you? Trap 1. The prison of the persona. You believe that your ability to adapt to any environment is a virtue. But for Jung, this is the first and most dangerous trap, the prison of the persona. The persona is the social mask we wear to survive, to be accepted, to fulfill the role of the good child, the competent professional, or the understanding partner. The problem is not having a mask, but forgetting that you are wearing one. In 2026, the pressure to be flawless is constant. You have become a master of excessive adaptation, shaping yourself to other people's expectations and silencing your own truths to avoid conflict. The danger arises when the mask fuses with the skin, when you look in the mirror and no longer know where the character ends and where you begin. You say what others want to hear, behave in the right way, and avoid disappointing everyone, except yourself. To fully identify with the persona is to live a life of as if. You live as if you were happy, as if you were satisfied, as if you were that image people admire. But behind the curtain of control, there is a soul in ruins. The more you sustain this perfect facade, the more you suffocate your spontaneity and your essence. You have become a hostage to your own theater. Living for the mask does not only erase your identity, it distorts all of your relationships. You feel that no one truly knows you, and you are right. They know only the role you perform. This inner isolation is born from the fact that you sacrificed your authentic self on the altar of social acceptance. Now you understand why you feel like a stranger in your own routine, despite all the praise you receive. But what you still haven't realized is that while you keep this mask clean and polished, everything you have rejected within yourself is accumulating in the shadows, waiting for the exact moment to explode and take control of your life. Because if you spend all your energy trying to be perfect, who is taking care of the darkness you insist on ignoring inside you? Trap 2. The projection of the shadow. The second trap is a mechanism that turns your world into an imaginary battlefield, the projection of the shadow. Jung taught that the shadow is everything you refuse to recognize within yourself, your anger, your envy, your selfishness, but also your strength and your rawest desires. When you fail to face these inner fragments, your mind projects that darkness onto others. Have you noticed how certain people trigger a disproportionate irritation in you? How someone else's behavior seems to wound you in an almost unbearable way? Very often, what you hate so intensely in the other is exactly what you do not allow yourself to be or to feel. The other becomes a distorted mirror of the parts you locked away in the basement of your soul. You believe you are fighting toxic people or unjust situations, but in many cases, you are only fighting your own shadow projected onto the world. In 2026, it is easy to fall into the trap of pointing fingers. It is comfortable to believe that we are the conscious ones and that others are the alienated. Yet the more you condemn the weaknesses of others, the more you become a slave to your own repressions. The shadow does not disappear because it is ignored. It becomes a destiny. What you do not admit within yourself will meet you in the form of repetitive conflicts and destructive relationships. This trap is silent because it disguises itself as morality. You convince yourself that you are simply a correct and balanced person, while your unconscious is projecting all of your repressed potential onto external figures. By doing this, you lose the power to change yourself because you believe the problem is always out there. You become a spectator of your own shadow, reacting to the world instead of acting from your center. Now you understand that much of your emotional stress comes from external battles that should be resolved internally. But what you still haven't realized is that by trying to deal with other people's shadows in order to avoid your own, you are opening a wound that drains your vital energy all the way to complete exhaustion. Because if you spend so much time analyzing and judging the darkness in others, who is providing the energy necessary to sustain your own light? Trap 3. The Savior Complex. The third trap is what we can call a hemorrhage of the soul, the Savior Complex. For an intelligent and empathetic person, this is the most seductive trap because it disguises itself as kindness and altruism. You believe it is your mission to understand, heal, or carry the emotional burden of those around you. But for Carl Jung, this attempt to resolve another person's unconscious is, in truth, an escape from your own emptiness. You become the safe harbor, the tireless counselor, the one who always has a clear word for someone else's chaos. But have you ever stopped to consider the cost of this? Jung warned that when we try to rescue someone who refuses to dive into themselves, we end up offering our own psychic energy as fuel for the other person's stagnation. You are not helping, you are being used as a host for someone else's shadow. In 2026, emotional deprivation is an epidemic, and people like you are easy targets for soul vampires. You give your time, your attention, and your peace, believing that if you are understanding enough, the other person will change. But change is an internal process. By trying to carry a tragedy that is not yours, you disperse your vital force. You wake up exhausted not because of what you did, but because of what you allowed to be taken from you. This trap creates a false sense of purpose. While you are busy saving the world, you don't have to face the fact that your own life is standing still. You feel useful, but deep down, you feel empty and resentful. It is the fatigue of someone trying to hold up the roofs of many houses while their own structure is collapsing from neglect. Now you understand that your chronic exhaustion is not a lack of sleep, but the result of having become a container for emotions that others refuse to process. But what you still don't understand is that this exhaustion is the prelude to a necessary rupture. Your body and your mind are about to declare bankruptcy so that you stop looking sideways and are forced to look downward. Because if you continue to spend your life trying to light the path for those who prefer the darkness, who will be left to walk beside you when you finally decide to follow your own calling? Trap 4. Resistance to individuation. The fourth trap is the fear of your own potential, resistance to individuation. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming a unique whole being, independent of external pressures. But here lies the mistake. You feel the call to change. You sense that your current life no longer serves you, yet you resist. You confuse the pain of growth with the fear of destruction. In 2026, it is common for intelligent people to become paralyzed in the zone of intellectual comfort. You know you need to break old habits, leave relationships that have already died, or change careers, but the chaos that such change would bring terrifies you. You choose the safety of a familiar unhappiness over the risk of an unknown rebirth. You treat your existential crisis as an illness to be cured, when in truth, it is the sign that your soul is trying to break through its shell in order to be born. This resistance shows itself through procrastination and intellectualization. You read one more book, take one more course, or wait for a perfect sign that never comes. Jung stated that there is no awakening of consciousness without pain. By resisting this necessary discomfort, you only prolong your suffering in a useless way. You are trying to keep standing a structure that has already been condemned by your own unconscious. The greatest danger of this trap is that it convinces you that you are being prudent, when in reality you are simply being cowardly in the face of your own destiny. Life demands that you pass through the fire to be purified, but you insist on staying at the edge, watching the flames out of fear of being burned. This indecision drains your soul more than any real effort ever could. Now you understand that your anguish is not a mistake, but the weight of a new identity trying to emerge. But what you still haven't realized is that to accept this call, you will have to face a consequence your intelligence has always tried to avoid. You will have to endure the cold of a path where no one can hold your hand. Because if you continue to resist what your own essence demands, how do you expect to find peace while living a life that no longer belongs to you? Trap 5. The tyranny of validation. The fifth and final trap is the umbilical cord that still ties you to the herd, the tyranny of external validation. In a world like today, where approval has been turned into a metric and a currency, you have fallen into the mistake of believing that your truth is only real if it is recognized by someone else. You seek the yes of your parents, the praise of your peers, or the applause of society to justify your most intimate choices. Carl Jung understood that the person who seeks external validation is, in truth, fleeing from the responsibility of validating themselves. For deep and conscious individuals, this trap is especially painful because it creates a dissonance. You know what is right for you, but you fear the isolation that this choice will bring. You are afraid of being labeled strange, cold, or selfish. And out of fear of that judgment, you betray your own nature in order to remain connected to people who would not be able to tolerate seeing who you really are. The cure for this trap is what Jung called conscious isolation. It is not the loneliness of someone who was rejected, but the solitude of someone who chose to withdraw from the noise in order to find their own rhythm. It is the necessary discomfort of walking alone for a while to ensure that your steps are truly yours and not echoes of other people's desires. When you stop being a slave to approval, you recover sovereignty over your psyche. Enduring the cold of not being understood is the price of freedom. If you continue to measure your worth through the eyes of others, you will never move forward. Conscious isolation allows you to clear the interference and finally hear the voice of yourself. It is in this absence of external validation that your inner authority is forged. Now you understand that your need for belonging was, in fact, your greatest prison. You have identified the 5 traps: the mask of the persona, the projection of the shadow, the weight of the savior, resistance to change, and the pursuit of validation. But recognition is only the beginning of the crossing. Because if you can now see the bars of the cell you were living in, what is born within you when you realize that the door was never locked from the outside, but from within? The alchemy of being, psychological rebirth. What happens when you finally decide to release the weight of these 5 traps? What remains when you remove the mask, reclaim your projections, stop carrying the world on your back, accept chaos, and renounce applause? For Carl Jung, this is the moment of alchemy, the transformation of the lead of pain into the gold of consciousness. Psychological rebirth does not mean becoming a new and perfect person, but becoming a whole one. It is the moment when you stop fighting against your own nature and begin working with it. The chaos you lived through, the exhaustion, the emptiness, the feeling of being lost, was not a mistake along the way. It was the necessary fire to burn away the illusions that kept you from seeing the truth. Now, you begin to realize that the sensitivity that once isolated you is, in fact, your greatest gift. The fact that you never fully fit in was your compass, trying to pull you away from the common path and guide you toward your own destiny. By integrating your shadow and accepting your calling, you acquire an inner authority that does not need shouting or justification. You begin to inhabit your own center. In this phase of 2026, life will continue to move fast on the outside, but within you, the rhythm is now different. You are no longer a boat adrift in the collective unconscious, tossed back and forth by the opinions and expectations of others. You are the captain who knows the depths of your own sea and no longer fears the storms because you understand they are part of the journey. Now you understand that the crossing was worth it, that every drop of energy lost to the traps was the price of your liberation. But this integration is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new way of being in the world. Because if you are now able to look at yourself with complete honesty, what remains to be done when the mirror no longer reflects a social role, but the vastness of who you were truly born to be? The return to the center. We have traveled a long path through the layers of your psyche. We have unmasked the 5 traps that, until now, kept your intelligence and sensitivity locked in a cycle of exhaustion. If you have made it this far, the silence you feel now is no longer the oppressive emptiness from the beginning. It is the silence of clarity. Carl Jung taught us that who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. But awakening is not a final destination. It is a posture of constant vigilance. Avoiding these traps in 2026 does not mean that you will never again feel fear, fatigue, or the temptation to please. It means that, from this moment on, you possess the map. You can recognize the weight of the mask before it fuses with your face. You can detect projection before it destroys a bond. You can feel the hemorrhage of energy before your soul is drained dry. The return to the center is the realization that everything you were seeking outside, validation, belonging, meaning, was simply waiting for you to stop running from your own depth. Your mind is no longer a tool of self-sabotage, but a servant of your intuition. Your sensitivity is no longer an open wound, but your genuine connection to life. Do not expect the world to understand or applaud your new posture. The system will continue trying to sell you distractions and empty roles, but you now know the value of your silence and the weight of your truth. True freedom is not the power to control what is outside, but the sovereignty of no longer being controlled by what is hidden within you. This journey ends here, but your process of becoming who you truly are has only just begun. What will you do with this new clarity? How will you use the strength you recovered by closing the wounds of the soul? Stay with the question that should guide your next steps, the one that will continue to echo long after this screen goes dark. If you are not the master of your own soul, who will you allow to occupy the throne in your place?